various psychedelics, but just one experience that was so meaningful. And then, it's something that maybe they had a journey with, and then they learned what they were needed, and it was done. And it's really amazing. You could do something like microdosing, which is to say sustainable, or you could do something that's really just an experience, and we're trying to get that more guided through New Jersey. People are working on legislation for that. Kind of what I've been dealing with on the business end is I see this as we have to not scare people. Everyone tells me that it's going to go much quicker than cannabis went because cannabis kind of paved the way. But in the way that we saw like CBD, Delta 8, and then people were like, oh, maybe weed's okay. I feel like I'm working with, as soon as things start to kind of roll out and get some level of awareness in the market, I'm kind of getting on those so I could follow that same path. So one of the first things was adaptogenic mushrooms, like lion's mane, things like that. And usually you get those mushroom teas that just put all the mushrooms, just do all the things. I don't really love that ever when I'm making products. I like to target and make things specific. So my favorite one, I have ADHD, is the stimulating red mushroom gummy that has lion's mane and a little bit of caffeine and L-theanine to raise it out. So I've given that to people. I've become like addicted to them, but and they're just like, that's their first little introduction to mushrooms, and they go, oh, I could take that every morning. Kind of lights my brain on fire, and and then there's Amanita, which we'll probably talk about a little bit, and that's a very cool experience too. One I had actually not done until recently, and it's totally different. So we're taking people on this path to get to the way to legalizing psilocybin, but there's a lot of cool other steps in that journey. So.
Hey everybody, my name is Shayla Cabrera. I am the founder and owner of Tia Planta. We began as a houseplant business that was founded during the pandemic. I founded the business with $400, and in that year we made over $150,000 worth of sales. When cannabis legalization for adult rec came around, I applied for cultivation, and we were one of the first in the state to be awarded a conditional license for cultivation. Since then, we pivoted. Originally, we were in Jersey City, and as you all know, the price of real estate out here is extremely high, so I moved my entire life, and we are now on an 11-acre farm down in South Jersey. So we're building that out, getting ready to move forward there. My father has been incarcerated over 25 years due to the war on drugs. I advocate for home grow and for people of color to enter this market as it has directly affected myself and my family. So let's see. I'm the recipient of quite a few grants, including the Fearless Fund, the Tory Burch Foundation Women of Color Grant. Most recently, I won the NJEDA Seed Grant for $150,000, and I've been utilizing those funds to build out my facility. I'm also the director of post-harvest production at The Botanist, so I work a full-time job as well. And I'm an amateur mycologist, and I love mushrooms, so I do grow my own. I have for quite some time, and I'm also very passionate about foraging and using all kinds of mushrooms outside of psilocybin.
Hey, what's up everybody? My name is John Frank, also known as Dirty Dank Jersey, the NJ Gasquatch, the Puerto Rican Sasquatch. So I am the owner of the Beast Coast Consumption Experience, one of New Jersey's, I guess, first legacy to legal consumption experiences, bringing education and access to consumption information. Everybody thinks they know how to smoke pot, but after years of being in the field with ganjiers, glass blowers, and cultivators, and learning the nuances from full melt to this and that, it's fun to be able to translate that to the community. Now, on to psychedelics, it's very similar. I grew up in a very interesting religion, in the church, where I didn't look at drugs and these things, and when I got to a place where I was in active addiction and I needed to get that spiritual connection, I tapped in with mycelium and mushrooms, and the experiences are absolutely, like they're saying, profound. I heard, was it Josh King sharing earlier, And it was very interesting to hear somebody articulate that experience. So I encourage people, like you're saying, start small. I do encourage macrodosing. You know, I do go up to the eighths and quarters of very specific mushrooms to fracture and break everything that I am, but it's with good people and having, you know, educated people in that experience with you. But yeah, it's a fun opportunity to be with these people. Psychedelics, I feel, will change our addiction community, and it will allow people to forgive themselves. I think that's a big part of psychedelics, is you ultimately get this humility and a forgiveness. So if I can be an example for the community of men and women and the 50 of my best friends that I buried, a lot of them right here in Newark, because of active addiction before their 40th birthdays, I think this is kind of how we can do it, you know, open up these kind of opportunities for people to explore mental health through medicine.
100%. Thank you all so much for incredible introductions there. You got an incredible panel up here, and honestly, I love being able to talk psychedelics with folks because it brings the conversation to an entirely different space, and it's so refreshing. So I'm going to dive into some of the questions around understanding how you've each utilized psychedelics or psilocybin. And I wanted to dive back and start with you, John. Can you tell us about the role that psychedelics have played in your recovery journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So I got diagnosed with stage 2 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, large B-cell intermediate growth. I had 20 plus, you know, D1, D2, D3 scholarships. I went to Hunterdon Central Regional High School. We were back-to-back state champions, and it's crazy. When I got into my addiction and I lost the physique and all of this stuff, I became very self-destructive. You know, I carried a lot of grief, lost a lot of people on this journey. Psychedelics got introduced to me, I don't want to say accidentally, but it was like a challenge. It was like, hey, nothing's working, I'm suicidal. I'm literally doing things that are insane. I'm repeating the same behaviors, robbing my family, putting myself in dangerous situations, and I'm not being cognizant of my actions. And when I started to look on Irowid, I went through a process of exploring 39 different psychedelic chemicals with my buddies who went to Rutgers as biopharmacology majors. And we did everything from 5-MeO, AMT, DMT, DXM, Foxy, Rohypnol, GHB, and I went there. And each one of these chemicals plays on different neural synapses and receptors. And you talk about like the 9 circles of hell. Like, you're gonna go through scary things. But on the other side of each one of those, confronting my demons, psychedelics revealed to me my weaknesses and how I had to interpolate and respect now. And through conversation and articulating and communicating, I was able to begin healing, you know, the damage in this wake of nobody respects me, nobody appreciates me, and then it's like I was saying, the forgiveness. So psychedelics enabled me to forgive myself and begin to associate with cool people that have some really interesting trajectories that I hope to be a part of.
Hey, so happy to have you be part of this panel, be part of part of training my bud tenders. He's been as someone I consider Canna fam and now Mushroom fam, and as someone who also used psychedelics in recovery from addiction, I really relate to your story. I'm happy to have you here today. But Shayla, I wanted to ask you next. What were some of the most significant changes in your mindset and perspective after your experiences with psychedelics?
So for myself, I am a huge supporter of microdosing. I really hit a point in my life where I knew I was destined for more, and I felt I had hit a wall, and I really wanted to just create a new path for myself. I was unhappy with where I was in my life. I wanted to achieve more and reach my full potential and feel connected to the source. So I began my journey with microdosing, and I have to say that it was absolutely incredible. I felt really disconnected from my ancestry, being in basically business and just my lifestyle, being raised, not really being connected to my family. So I wanted to get in touch with my ancestors and feel how I could channel that power into my future. So there was one experience I had, and I took a macro dose, and I felt that I truly had all of the wisdom of my ancestors just instilled in me, and I had that moment of surrender that was talked about earlier, and I just asked for the strength to go through the hardships of life, just the power and the strength to persevere through the hardships that were coming ahead, and to take all of these lessons with grace. And I'm so grateful that I had that experience, and I still continue to microdose regularly. I think it's very helpful as a person who mentally I can hit a roadblock and it can feel like I'm just on a hamster wheel. When I microdose, it opens up another portal in my mind and allows me to create those new synapses and to open up that new view and really hit new places and new goals. So it's been wonderful. I mean, a story of how I founded my business, Tia Planta, during the pandemic. I had like a pound of mushrooms, and I'm an avid gardener, and so during the pandemic, I think every day I ate, like, I'd say maybe about 8. I was dosing very heavily, and at the end of like a month, I was a completely different person, and I had an extremely successful business. So there are a lot of benefits that you can incorporate it into your life if you want to radically change and improve who you are as a person, if you really use it in an intentional way and want to get to that place that you know that you can deep inside.
That's incredible. I was probably at the other side of the state taking shrooms through the pandemic, so thank you so much for sharing. And like, it's so cool to hear how it was able to help you in a professional sense too, like being able to be resilient through the many struggles that it takes to run a business. Microdosing can really help. And thank you for bringing up microdosing. I wanted to, if we could pass the mic down to Steph. You've become quite a guide in your community. Can you hear me? Okay, cool. You've become a guide in your community for microdosing. So I wanted to start off with asking, what is microdosing, and how do you guide others in safe and effective microdosing?
Yeah, sure. So microdosing, it's not specific to psilocybin. It can be done with other psychedelics as well. It can be done with cannabis as well. And cannabis is actually a psychedelic and can be used as a psychedelic as well. But it's just taking a very small amount. With psilocybin, you're looking at 1/4 of a gram to about 0.7, even a gram, depending on the person. And it's really not weight dependent either. Like, I've actually seen a 300-pound man take a 0.1 and trip and feel it really intensely. And then also like a small frame woman like me take a 1 gram and not feel it at all. So it really depends on the person. Microdosing is very, individual. It's an individual experience, and healing is very multidimensional. So what we start with always when I'm speaking to someone is their intention. I try to listen, like, what is going on? Why do you want to do this? And just kind of getting people so that they could narrow down and really think about why it is that they're doing it, what it is that they're really looking to get out of it. And it all comes down to one thing for me that I've noticed that everyone needs, and that's connection. Connection is everything. It's connection to yourself, connection to others, connection to nature. And so that's how I try to guide people through this experience. There's a lot of different ways to take this. So, for example, you can take it, microdose it daily. You can microdose it every other day. You can microdose it 1 day on, 2 days off. You can mix it with other herbs. You can mix it with niacin, and you can mix it with lion's mane. It really depends on what you are looking to do. And in particular, I think one of the most important things to understand is that psilocybin, in particular microdosing mushrooms, is like opening a book, right? It's like opening a book to yourself and to your subconscious. And then all of a sudden, all these things are revealed to you that maybe you weren't aware of. And what you do with this information really is what's going to dictate where you're going to go after that microdosing journey, right? Like, what are you going to do about this information, about maybe this behavior or this thought pattern that is limiting you, or this fear that you just discovered that you have. And so I always love to suggest to people that they don't take microdosing or psilocybin as a one thing that's going to cure you and it's going to fix all of your issues, because that's not what's going to happen. You're going to have to put in the work after that experience. And so I always suggest that journaling is part of it, and connecting to yourself. So meditation, breath work, yoga, these are all things that help with that neurogenesis, with those new neural connections. How are we reprogramming now? Right? Like let's say I experienced some kind of fear, and I realized in my journey that I don't think I'm enough. Right? When I come up here or something, I don't feel like I'm enough. And so that's a fear, right? That being accepted. We all have childhood traumas. So now this childhood trauma is opening up. Right? Now you know, now you're aware. Now what are you going to do about it? How are you going to change that? And so that reprogramming comes after. And so that's what I focus on, helping people to really find a routine, a daily routine that they can wake up in the morning, fill themselves with gratitude, do some breath work, do some meditation, connect to themselves, right? Maybe the next day they can connect and find a friend that they can talk to. Maybe the next day they can go into nature and connect with nature. So finding those outlets to release some of that energy, because microdosing is emotional. It's not easy. It's not something that you take and then you get to relax. No, now you get to feel and really be aware of your feelings and sit with it and be in that really uncomfortable energy that is your fears, your doubts, all of it, right? Your grief. So you got to sit with that, and like what John said, you got to forgive yourself. You got to start bringing in compassion. You got to start talking to those parts of you that need your attention, that need your love, so that you can really create space for yourself to heal. And so that's really what it is about. In my guidance, it's really just about sitting with a person and comforting them and showing them that this is what you're going to experience, and then this is the work that you got to do. And these are the alternative ways of combining yoga, breathwork, meditation, connecting with people, going out for a walk, so that you can integrate everything that you have learned and you can incorporate it into your life and really reprogram yourself to change those behaviors, to change those thought patterns.
Yes, and I think we all know a lot of folks, and maybe even ourselves, that could use a little bit of that reprogramming, especially these days. You've definitely inspired me to want to get back into microdosing again. And as we have psilocybin legalization moving forward here in New Jersey right now in a super exciting way, this could be something that's potentially open to us and something that we should all be reaching out to our legislators about. But as usual, Tara is one step ahead of the game, always trailblazing, always setting the standard, always paving the way. And so for right now, as Steph said, microdosing can be done with a lot of different substances. And one of the mushrooms that I would love to learn a little bit more about is something that Tara actually has a product available through Blazing Bakery right now. But could you tell us a little bit more about what the role mushrooms like in this area have played in modern self-care and alternative medicine? If that cut off right there, could you?
I might ask you at the end what else it was. All right, first I just have to say a couple things I've been dying to get out. I don't think I've ever been on a panel where someone mentioned Irowid. Do people know what that is? No. That's amazing. Okay, so enjoy this period of psychedelics, because I could tell you right now, it's fun, and it's not gonna last. I'm gonna be on a panel with like all attorneys in a couple years, and I do love all of my attorneys, but I'm just letting you know. It's fun, happy to be here. Okay, so one thing I want to mention too, he did mention that there's so many different psychedelics, and I want to talk about Amanita, but also like know your sources. So I'm over there with my Blazing Bakery booth. You could go blazingbakery.com. But I'm not just plugging myself. Like if you're finding polka dot bars out there or things like that, like you could buy that packaging on Amazon and Temu. Like really know your source, because a lot of it is research chemicals and you don't even know what it is, and you don't want to be the guinea pig. We're also in that time, that kind of wild west of, before things are safe and regulated. But so let's talk about Amanita. I think this is a really fun mushroom. I didn't know about this till a couple years ago. It's the red and white one that you see in like Alice in Wonderland, and it has a crazy history that they say it has to do with Santa Claus, and that's why it's red and white, and that they used to get the reindeers high by eating the mushrooms, and that's why they thought they were flying. Wait, am I nailing this or am I messing this up? I haven't told it in a while. And then there was something about the chimney too, right? Google it, it's really fun. Or what's the chimney part?
It's about this, like the crystal serum, the chimney.
Okay, I heard something else. But anyway, they're really fun. Let me just, without giving you the silly history of them. They feel amazing, and it's a totally different experience than psilocybin. So what it is, it's not like saying like, oh, that's not as good. No, it's just different. So I sell them in little packs of 5. I tell people if you eat 2, it's kind of like having a glass of wine. If you eat 5, and that's not still like a big dose, but all right, everyone's talking about like their journeys, and I love and appreciate that so much. But like, so I took 5 on Amanita and went to an arcade. And me and my husband played video games, and the colors are brighter and everything's more fun and you're giggling. And it's just a really great experience. And then you go home, you sleep like a baby. It only lasts like 2 hours and you feel great the next day. So it's not just like, I was never the medical person, even in cannabis. I was always the Lays and Bakery, let's have fun. But I worked with so many patients. I helped write the medical laws even. But also in mushrooms, I feel like there's so many people focusing on the people we can help in the medical side. But I'm always the one who's like, maybe we could have some fun too. So, yeah.
2 more minutes, y'all.
Okay, incredible. So 2 more minutes. Okay. I'm gonna move forward real quick.
I give you 3, Jesse, if you
Thank
need a
you.
little more.
Okay, I appreciate you. Okay, so I'm gonna, since we're ending, I'm gonna throw out a question to everyone. What advice would you give to someone considering psychedelics for personal and professional growth?
I would say set an intention, find a grower that you can trust. Set and setting is everything. Don't take something and then try to work or clean your house, or just try to really sit down with yourself if you're really using it for that intention. If the intention is fun, then go find a fun place to hang out. I mean, I've been using microdosing instead of alcohol in social settings for a very long time, and it's great. You don't feel bad the next day. You feel good. You enjoy. You get to connect to people at another level. It's great for social anxiety. It's great for networking. It's great for connecting overall. So I would say the most important thing is be conscious and intentional about it. I even do this with cannabis. Every time I smoke it, I have an intention for it, and it really guides you and your experience wherever you need it to go.
That's awesome. So personal, what I would say is if it's your first time, don't be alone. I have someone I used to call a drug Sherpa, because he was just always like guiding people. He's like the babysitter. But yeah, just you're gonna be a lot more comfortable, you're gonna be a lot more safe, and it's not like smoking cannabis for the first time. It's really something you want to have a buddy and a good one who's been there before. And yeah. So that would be the personal. Professionally, that's an interesting question. I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of people try it and then want to get into the industry. I've heard so many people talk about their experience with the plant or the flower who got into cannabis. So like everything else, I think in a few years we'll see a lot more people who want to make this their career, and the industry will probably explode.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with what you've both shared about having someone knowledgeable there to guide you, especially if you're new, and definitely having a reliable source. because as we discussed earlier, there's a lot of false advertising for products. So definitely make sure you know what you're consuming always, no matter what the substance. Professionally, my advice for anyone would be learn how to grow your own. Now, all you need is a sterile environment. It's fairly simple to do. You got an extra closet. That's pretty much all you need. So just make sure you keep it clean if you're going to try growing your own. That's the number one tip I could give for any home grower. And then when you see this industry start to evolve, which it will very quickly, you'll have the skills to jump in and get a high quality position and whatever pharmaceutical company wants to come in and take hold of the market, because we know that's what happens with legalization of most plant medicines, unfortunately.
So yeah, I guess personally, like she was saying before, Earwig. It's been awesome. There's a lot of vlogs. There are actually people that have been contributors who are not licensed, they're not scientists or anything, but they're actually called in by these companies to do the guinea pigging, like you're saying. And then they talk about it. So it's a place for information. I also encourage, before you do self-experimentation, find a trusted source until we have access readily available. I happen to have a crazy job working with the #1 chemists on earth. And there are, once you have a trusted source, stick, like they're saying, start small and journal. Keep your records, start to learn, and in the intention setting is incredibly important. I've only had like 1 week in my life on LSD, and that was because of grief. And so yeah, if you're going to use these things in a way to process grief, just have a partner, have a companion, have, I call myself a psychonaut. So if you can find a psychonaut, get one and bring them on the ride, especially on bicycle day.
Definitely. And as a lot of the panelists brought up, like how this industry is going to shape and the accessibility of this life-saving medicine for folks is going to really depend on how our state legalizes it. And right now we are on the precipice of the beginning of a new industry, and we need more advocates trying to demand accessibility within this industry, trying to demand decriminalization, trying to demand legacy representation, indigenous representation, the ways that this fungi has always been used. I want to see people like that in this industry. And if we don't get people fighting for it, if we don't get those advocates showing up, unfortunately, it is going to be those big pharma folks that are going to be taking over. And they've got the benefit in their pockets right now, and so we need to bring through the people to be able to fight back against that. And it's happening right now. But thank you all so much for an incredible panel.
Give it up, ladies and gentlemen. Super dope psychedelics panel, baby. Give it up for Jesse for making it happen. Big up to Steph, Tara, Shayla, John, making it happen, brother. The real ones that are doing it and bringing the knowledge to you, man. Jesse, you got a bag here too. Thank y'all so much, man. Big up, big up, big up.